On this episode of Industry Relations, Rob and I discuss the changes at Bright MLS and the courage of Northwest MLS. Let's go.
This is Industry Relations, a podcast that's at the intersection of real estate and technology from an insider's perspective, with Rob Hahn and Greg Robertson.
Hi, everybody. This is Greg, and I wanted to give a quick shout out to our newest sponsor, CoreLogic. There has never been a time when it's been more crucial for real estate agents to demonstrate their value to their clients, and CoreLogic has all the tools for them to do so. One Home has generated over 17 million unique users who are exploring listing and neighborhood data. Their invitation-only client portal has also amassed 2.3 billion listing views, and their new photo AI search helps turn clients' visual aspirations into reality. For agents on the go, there's MLS Touch, which is their top-rated real estate app in the App Store, which gives agents instant access to critical MLS data wherever they are, and also can be branded for collaboration as a client version. Next up is RealList. RealList gives agents expert level analysis of properties, which helps their clients make smarter decisions and also can help them with their lead generation efforts. All this is underpinned by Matrix, the industry's leading MLS system. Currently, CoreLogic is rolling out Matrix 12, which will have a brand new interface that works perfect for mobile and desktop. Lots of great stuff happening at CoreLogic. Don't forget an update from your favorite rep, whether that's Rick, Todd, Kim, Lauren, or the rest of the crew, or visit their website. You can look at the link in the show notes. My thanks again for CoreLogic for sponsoring Industry Relations.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Industry Relations with Rob and Greg. This is your co-host, Notorious Rob. And as always, my fabulous co-host. Fabulous because he's the fabulous Greg Robertson.
Thank you. Hola, Rob. Hola.
Today's hat day, as everyone who is watching
I'm repping
on
my
YouTube.
Real Tracks hat here. So
That's right.
The Julie and the rest of the guys at Real Tracks, if you're watching, here it is. Last time I was up out there, they gave me the hat, and I told them I'd wear it on the podcast. So here I am.
Yeah. So speaking of hats, like, hey man, giant steps, like, you know.
I'm gonna get. Did I get you a mug yet? The
No,
mugs,
I
the
got
mugs
shit.
are out there. Okay,
I got nothing.
A care package is coming. Okay, a care package.
Speaking
is
of
coming.
which, you know what? I would love to hear from our listeners, especially on YouTube, because you could just post comments. Should we do industry relations swag?
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good idea.
Would you?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we do have some listeners. Like, we've got a cool logo. Do you want some like industry relations T-shirts, mugs? You know,
Yeah,
just let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
Because we'll look into it if you want it. All right. So I think we are going to wrap up the Bright MLS discussion because there's a bit of a thing. You know?
Right. Before we get
opined on
started,
it.
let me just say something.
Yeah.
I did get reached out by a lot of people about my little health challenge here.
Oh.
And so that was right before the Memorial Day weekend, and then I had to head to New York because I was touring NYU with my son, who has now been
Congrats
accepted
to your son.
to NYU Film School. So my wife and I, Jen, are nervously excited about that, but we'll see what happens. But so the journey begins tomorrow, the June 1st. So everybody, I'll be placing updates. I really am taking this seriously because I think this accountability is a good thing. But a lot of people reached out and were very, very kind. So thank you for that. But sorry.
Okay. And we'll talk about that offline, and then because I got some thoughts for you. All right. So you wanted to wrap up the Bright MLS clear cooperation thing, and then we'll move into other topics. So what do you want to wrap up?
Right. So first of all, they did a webinar, which I've not seen yet. Again, I've been bouncing around the country. But they also did a post, right? On the Bright site, which we'll put a link to that article in the show notes. And mostly it was about that they're going to do concession fields. Like they're going to have a different way, a little bit different the way CRMLS is doing it, basically a concessions field, right? Which is a whole other topic of like what kind of shell game we're playing now, right?
Yeah.
With things, right? Which might lend into the next topic. But at the very end, they also mentioned that they were going to make some changes to their coming soon listings.
That's right.
And that basically is, I think, what the rumor you were hearing was.
Yes.
And I'm just going to read it right off the site here. Coming soon listings will no longer have a 21-day limit. Listings can be placed in that status for an unlimited amount of time. The expected on-market date will be required. We will also clarify the requirements for listing entry and your options based on your seller's request. A new form is now available. Will be made available to help you clarify your sellers and the marketing opportunities within the MLS. Right. So this new form is pretty much spelling out like, what do you want to do with this? Mm-hmm. Use Bright to share my home's information with an open market being X. Use Bright to share my home information with real estate professionals in Bright MLS only, and do not publicly market my home on the internet beginning X. My home is not quite ready to show, but will be available for full public marketing on X. I mean, not by X.com, but just by that date. Yeah. I do not want my home as the last one to be on the open market. Strict marketing to my broker's network only. So I'm not sure if this is, it's like we were talking about. Is this a full flub of the CCP? Is this because the thing is, they sent this stuff out, and Inman News did a story on this, and they didn't even mention this part. Yeah. All they mentioned was the concession field. So it seems like a nothing burger here. But I mean, you were saying that Bright MLS was basically getting rid of the CCP
That's
policy.
What I heard. Yeah. I mean, I guess I haven't seen, and we don't know yet because they're talking about clarify the requirements for listing entry in your options, right? The 21-day limit being gone, listings can be placed in coming soon for unlimited amount of time. I mean, that's the piece right there, right?
Yeah, but
that goes against clear cooperation policy.
Yeah, but then there's this form that's like pretty black and white that, I mean, if the seller has to fill this out, they're kind of like being, it's a complete kind of transparency there about what they're kind of giving up too, right? And maybe they're confident because they've done the studies. If you don't put it on the MLS, it's not going to, it's not going to sell for as much or as,
I guess the issue becomes, okay, so if I put a home in for, in coming soon, it's going to get publicly marketed as coming soon.
It's going to be publicly marketed. Where does it say that?
My home isn't quite ready to show, but will be available for full public marketing. Property will be coming soon and Bright until ready for home tours, showing, or open houses.
Well, it doesn't say the coming soon listings will however, I mean, it could be coming soon forever, but it doesn't say that they're taking away the requirement for it, that you can't publicly market it unless you specifically say so, right? So it's right. I don't know if I'd qualify that as a complete reversal of CCP.
Then, you know what? Then I was mistaken. I'm happy to be wrong, man. Like, people make it seem like fine. We'll find out in a.
Well, I think that's
as we
what
see more forms.
I think the thing we talked about on the podcast was what we heard a rumor. You heard a rumor. What is that, and what would it mean if that happened, right? So,
the big issue for me was that if they are going to contravene a mandatory requirement, then NAR has to do something, right? Like, that thing really wasn't about Bright MLS's clear cooperation policy. It was more about, if I'm an MLS, like, why do I care what NAR says?
Right. I mean, we've seen that happen with Bright in the past, where they and then basically NAR flipped the script, right?
Right. So I'm saying, we make it seem like NAR has all this power to control the MLS. Do they? We'll find. I think we're about to find out in the next, 18 months, let's say.
Right.
Like CRMLS, Bright. Like I said, if this is their effort to, like, not really violate clear cooperation policy, fine. We're going to make some fine adjustments, or fine. Okay, then I was wrong. They didn't contravene clear cooperation policy. If you need that fig leaf to pretend like NAR is power, then go for it, right? But fact of the matter is, if Bright had said, fuck it, no more clear cooperation policy, right? Then what's NAR going to do about it?
Yeah, I guess we won't know now, but maybe that may happen for sure.
That may happen. We'll see. And somebody somewhere is going to do it. You know?
So, well, that's a nice segue to the next topic, which is Northwest MLS.
Yeah.
Right. I saw you publish something this morning. I didn't get a chance to read that, but I mean, I just, to me,
I think you're a big fan. I think you're a huge fan of what they did here.
I think I'm not talking about a huge fan, but I think we need other opinions, other voices to go out there and prove and poke at things and see, what's out there beyond what, has been told to us. Right. So I definitely, I would say, I think I wrote, bravo to what they're doing because why not? I mean, I've said this before, but it's hard to tell the poison from the cure. Right. And will these things that MLSs have to do really help fair housing, or will they hurt them? And that's one of the things that Northwest MLS mentions by.
Yeah, but that's all just talk. That's
all
just.
Okay. I mean, you can say it's just talk.
They don't really care about fair housing.
Oh, that's what you say, right?
That's what I say because I look at their actions. They don't really give a fuck.
Well, I mean, their actions are very different from everybody else. They are
sure.
So those actions to me tell me that they believe something different from what the rest of everybody else.
What those actions say to me is that they want to preserve the central place of the MLS because they recognize that the MLS without compensation is on some real thin reed.
I don't know about that. I mean, to me, like you were kind of like defending Zillow back in the day about like we're doing this for the good of the industry because we feel that, we're champions of the consumers, right?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, why wouldn't you give these guys the same pass of like that the guys over at Northwest MLS are really doing this because they believe that that the MLS is serving a central function and preserving the way it is or some of the things that they're doing as a good thing.
Okay. That's fine. But it just so happens that it makes my point is very simple. You remove compensation from the MLS, it really weakens the MLS. Right.
And I don't think it destroys it or gets rid of it. I mean,
I'm not saying but it weakens it. Like CRMLS and Bright MLS, with their big thing about, we're new concessions feel we're going to adopt this. Okay, cool. Like, that's fine. But it's not compensation, right?
Well, yeah.
It's Rob, not compensation.
Right.
No. By their own definition, it's not compensation.
No,
it's
they go out of their way to say it's not compensation.
Correct. They go out of their way. This is a new concessions field, right? Okay. And there's all these different options and blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Like, I don't have any problems with anything that they've done. This is not a criticism of Bright or CRMOS. That's great. I'm simply pointing out that to pretend like removal of cooperative compensation from the MLS does not weaken the MLS is just wrong. It's just factually wrong. Right. We have 40 years of like all sorts of industry leaders from, Gary Keller to, like all, what I mean? Like talking about how the MLS is a vehicle for sharing of compensation. Okay. Once you remove compensation from the MLS, then we go back to the Sam DeBoard world, right? Where he's talking about the value of the MLS as the database and the rule giver and all. Like, okay, cool. But it does weaken the value, right?
Right. So I'm apologize. I'm just trying to kind of get these two things in my head here. I have a Rob Hahn that I know of says nothing changes.
Nothing changes to the industry.
Hold on. Nothing changes. It's just going to go on as it was. These things really don't mean anything. And then now to the Rob Hahn I'm talking to now who says this is totally going to weaken the MLS, right? I mean, if nothing changes, Rob, what is no. I don't understand. I'm trying to, like I said,
why is it so hard to understand? Nothing changes. Like the commission rate's not going to go down. Compensation will still be offered, right? Like all of that stays in place. The MLS is weakened. I've never said nothing changes for the MLS. No, everything changes for the MLS. Everything changes for NAR. Everything changes for realtor associations. But when I said nothing changed, like there was this notion that the 6% is now dead. No, it's not. Right. Like. Well, buyers have to pay their own agents. No, they're not. Like that's not changing. None of that's changing. That's what I meant by it.
Yeah, but again, I think Northwest MLS can make a valid argument that says, okay, we understand that from now on, there has to be better practices and being transparent to the buyer's agent. Right. Hold on. No. Okay, hold on. Can Can I finish my fucking
because
statement?
you haven't read my post, so I'm thinking it would be helpful for you to just like I actually laid out what I thought was the strongest case the Northwest made.
Okay, so but you're failing to convince me in person here, so I need to read your post. Is that the
I
thing?
didn't do that. So here's to me the Steelman case for Northwest.
Okay,
and by the way, I don't have a problem with Northwest doing this, right? Like this is great. To your point, maybe this is the right way of doing things, right? I'm just talking about the motivation. You're talking about the fair housing. No, it wasn't. It had nothing to do with that. Here's their argument in a nutshell.
They mentioned that. I mean, so.
Yeah, that's all. Okay, so.
Why is it all this, but with Zillow, it's not this?
Because if Northwest MLS.
The showing time thing weakens Zillow, right? Without having to have everybody sign a fucking contract to go see a tour house.
I feel like your Zillow hatred, your Zillow derangement syndrome is coming through right now, Greg.
I'm feeling like, maybe I'm believing the MLS hatred that everybody thinks you have. Let me finish the
argument, and then you could tell me why you wouldn't let me finish.
You wouldn't even let me finish.
Because I could do this. All right. So
all right.
Their basic argument goes like this. Washington State has a new law that mandates buyer agency agreements.
Yeah.
Washington State's buyer agency agreement, it actually says something, it suggests that sharing a commission is totally fine in Washington. Okay. And because it's like any terms of compensation must be disclosed in writing, something along those lines. Okay. So if this is perfectly legal in Washington because of state law, right, then it is better for that to be more transparent so that all buyer agents can see what's being offered, as opposed to have to join the secret clubs or private networks or whatever, right, that the NAR settlement allows. That's a pretty strong case, right? In other words, if compensation is going to be allowed anyway, then it's better for it to be in the MLS where every buyer agent can see it, as opposed to moving off to like a brokerage website or some secret network. I think that's a pretty reasonable argument to make, right? All the fair housing and disadvantage, like that's all bullshit. That's all PR. But we don't need to even worry about that. Fundamentally, what we're saying is this is legal, right? And Washington, our state law definitely permits and allows it. So if it's legal and allowed, then it's better for it to be in one central place that the entire marketplace can see. I think that's the strongest argument for it.
Okay.
Right. Now, go ahead.
No, I mean, so you're just saying, so you agree with what they're doing?
I think I sort of agree with it. Like, here's what we have to take a side. Like, what do you mean by, do I agree with what they're doing? Like, I think it's brave as hell because I think they're going to get sued. But maybe they're ready for that.
Sounds
and
like
if so, good for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, good for you. Maybe that lawsuit will set a different precedent, right? And maybe it'll showcase that, hey, if compensation is going to be allowed, then the MLS is the appropriate place to share that, as opposed to these private little networks, right? Okay. Like, I don't have a real problem with that. Right?
I mean, to me, if you could extend that argument, right, to say, even if the state doesn't require buyers brokers agreements, and maybe that's a path going forward, but even if they don't, they still have to do those, right, because of this settlement. That they can make the same argument. Hey, we have to do this, and because we're doing this, we still think that the best place to aggregate this information is on the MLS, right? So that could extend there. I guess that's what I'm getting at. It's like somebody needs to test this. Somebody needs to kind of put alternative situations out there, alternative actions, alternative solutions, alternative solutions out there to see what's out there. Because I think a lot of this stuff it's a little bit of a shell game because of the immediacy of this thing and the dollars that we're talking about. Everybody, I mean, this is a freight train headed in one direction, right? So for these guys to jump off this freight train and say, hold on a second, we think we have a better solution, right? And test the waters. I think bravo to those guys. I mean, for sure.
And I'm with you, man. Like I said, I was like, this is very, very courageous. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying, boy, that's a lot of risk. Because, okay, you've opted out the NAR settlement, right? You're in Higgins Berman's backyard. Higgins Berman is one of the big law firms that was behind the Merle lawsuit. They're in Seattle. Like, they're on 2nd Avenue. And you're basically flipping the bird to everybody. Like, I mean, all the work to file a lawsuit against Northwest MLS is already done. It's not hard for Higgins Berman to file an antitrust lawsuit, right? Against North. Okay, you wanted to test it? Cool, let's test it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so I give them credit for courage, right? I give them credit for the strength of the argument. It's actually not bad, right? I'm just saying, like, so do I support? Like, it depends who I am, right? If I'm on the board of Northwest MLS, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It is a risky ass move, and it could pay off big, or it could be you now you're looking at $150 million in damages. Not to mention the DOJ and the state attorney general's office might be looking for somebody to make an example of, right? And this, to me, felt like you just popped your head up.
Yeah, I look at it a little differently. I mean, well,
they could still win. They could still win.
But, you say the DOJ is going to, I mean, to me, the DOJ, I think you can say this because of some of the recent actions they've had.
Yeah.
Is this other thing is going on is just lawyers, right? The DOJ's been involved here and that, but the DOJ has their way of solving this is so completely radical than what we're doing now. They're just saying, okay, this is fine. Keep doing what you're doing. This is a step in the right direction, but this isn't even near what we want to see happen. So I don't even see the DOJ giving a shit about this because they've got their, once this gets settled, the DOJ is going to step back in with like, okay, really, I understand what you're doing here, but we want A, B, C, D, and F also.
Sure.
And that's going to be a whole other fucking thing, right? Yeah. So, I don't think I would be worried about the DOJ.
Oh, I'd be terrified of them.
Yeah. I mean, the DOJ's got another agenda coming up that, everybody's got to be worried about, I think.
What do you mean? What?
Well, I think, they've said they don't want to see a compensation offered from anybody.
Right.
Right. I mean, so this is, not even near that. Right. So that's coming down the pipe.
No, that's my point, man. The Department of Justice made it very clear. They want total decoupling.
Right.
Right. So they weren't happy with the no select one. They're not happy with the NAR settlement because it doesn't completely decouple. Right. But they're not going to mess around with the NAR settlement because of politics. Northwest just opted out. They're a big MLS. They have 35,000 members. Right.
Right. But does this end up to be maybe more of a states' right issue, right? Where if the state says we're good.
Well, that's the thing, man. The state doesn't actually really say that. And again, the problem here is the Department of Justice.
If the state, you said that the state's form says,
that's the defense,
right?
But the claim that the DOJ will bring is a Sherman Antitrust Act. It's federal law, right? And then the defense has to be, we're not actually in violation. This is not. It's going to be a complicated argument. I'm just saying Northwest MLS's position is strengthened by the fact that this new law was passed.
Right.
Right. I don't know that that's a total shield from a federal antitrust claim. My point is the DOJ wants total decoupling. Here's Northwest MLS that says, yeah, you know what? We're not doing any of that. We're going to keep compensation. We're going to put it in the MLS. It kind of is inviting, right, the DOJ. If you're going to make an example of anybody, make an example of me. And I'm going to step up, I'm going to fight, and I'm going to win. And that's my point is this. I'm saying the Northwest MLS could win. Right? It's a pretty strong case. I'm just saying if I'm the CEO of Northwest, I'd be terrified of doing this. Not because of Higgins Berman. Like whatever plaintiffs' lawyers could settle with them. If the DOJ comes in, there's a possibility it's a criminal prosecution. Now what?
Criminal. Well, I don't know about that, but I mean, but through the history, there's been several MLSs that have stepped up. I mean, I remember the neighborhood city thing that happened. That a lot of these
Department of Justice wasn't getting their case.
It wasn't that. I'm not saying the Department of Justice, but there were lawsuits that a lot of MLSs took on themselves. Where other people had settled. Here, right. So Justin, who's the CEO now he's an attorney. He was their general counsel. So I think he's probably.
He must be confident.
Yeah.
And that's why I said this is very, very courageous, very brave.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, dude, I'm not that concerned about some civil lawsuit. We could settle at the end of the day. What's the settlement with the Department of Justice look like? Right? Especially if they're going to play hardball. And put yourself now in the DOJ shoes, right? You want to see this decoupling. You want to see complete, total decoupling. You've been playing behind the scenes. You've been doing all this stuff, and you got to the NAR settlement, right? Not full decoupling, kind of remove the MLS from, compensation, maybe start to shift things over to this concessions type idea. That seems to be reasonably successful. I'm not real happy with it, right? Okay. What's my next move? If I really want to get everyone to wake the fuck up, a few felony charges against the CEO, the president, the members of the board, I think that would wake the hell up out of people, don't you?
So Sherman Antitrust is a criminal thing.
It's a criminal act.
Yeah.
I've mentioned this many times before. You could go to jail for up to 10 years. Not that anyone has. I'm not saying this is unlikely. I'm just saying if I'm the DOJ, I want to make an example of somebody.
Right.
Having the FBI arrest people would be a really fucking amazing way of waking people up. It's a total abuse of power, of course, but I'm an anarchist, so that's a little surprise. I'm not on the DOJ side on this. I'm just saying, if I'm them, that's what I would do.
I understand where you're going. I mean, to me, I've just felt the DOJ is on another. This is a sideshow for them. They have a bigger mission and a bigger mission that they want to go towards.
What, jail Trump?
Maybe.
Let's put it this way. At this point, every member
jail
of
criminals for sure. Yeah.
But sure, everyone affiliated with Northwest MLS in any way should be voting for Trump. Because if Biden wins re-election, that Department of Justice is going to be freed up. I admire kind of their courage, but I do wonder. It is a big risk move, right?
Yeah, I mean, to me, they've got a larger mission that this only solves part of. That
good for them. Yeah, everyone should be contributing to the legal defense fund.
Jesus Christ.
Every other MLS should be contributing to the legal defense fund because I feel like that's going to happen. Yeah. I don't know how you make this move and not expect to get sued, right? And to your point, Justin used to be their GC. I don't know him, but I can't wait to at some point meet him. We'd love to have him on. Justin, you want to come on and talk about hey, talk to us.
They probably don't comment on ongoing lawsuits.
Well, they're not facing any ongoing litigation right now. No. They will shortly, I think. And I could be totally wrong, man.
So you think that the Department of Justice sues them, not the settlement, whatever, I guess, what do you call the plaintiffs?
The plaintiffs' lawyers. No, I think it's probably both.
Right.
Right. But I think
they did a kind of a strong arm tactic with the Berkshire Hathaway group, right? Where it's okay, well, now you owe fucking the treble damages, right?
Yeah. $5 billion or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
They settled. So I suspect this is just telling Higgins Berman and other plaintiffs' law firms in and around Seattle, hey, victim, they opted out. Right. Okay. So sharks are going to gather. They'll go after them. But I think Northwest MLS feels like we'll beat that. Do you know what I mean? There's no way they did this move without talking to a bunch of lawyers and really looking at it. It's we think we have a pretty strong defense here. Good for them. I hope they're right.
Didn't they also contribute to some statement of interest on the Nosovec case also, Northwest MLS?
They did. Yeah. They did.
Yeah. So they've been paying attention for sure.
Yeah. No, and that's fine. Good for you. And I hope because I don't want to see anybody go to jail. I don't want to see any of that. Right. I'm just pointing out it's a very brave move.
Okay. So let's go ahead. Sorry.
But like I said, I think the missing point here is them, NAR, no one takes seriously, including you, that Sherman Antitrust Act is criminal law. No one take that seriously. And I want to reflect this, remember when I was at the University of Minnesota legal seminar thing, I wasn't the one to bring in orange jumpsuits, but other people there were. Right? And in the audience were a whole bunch of enforcers, state attorney generals, FTC, DOJ, antitrust enforcers. And if they heard that, they kind of be like, how do we get the end goal that we want, right? If money damages aren't going to do it, then there is another path.
Yeah.
Right. And in that context, man, I will say this. The other thing that I find so brave about this is that they're based in Seattle. And I wrote about this in my post a little bit. Bob Ferguson, the Attorney General of Washington, who is now running for governor, is likely to win because Washington, and he's a Democrat. Like, he made antitrust a big part of his term as Attorney General. Looks to me like the leader for Washington Attorney General right now on the Democrat side, again, Democrat Washington, whoever you win the primary, you're probably winning, is a guy by the name of Nick Brown, right? And his priorities sound a lot like Bob Ferguson's priorities about antitrust, going after corporations.
Well, they got Amazon there. They got
exactly
Costco. They've
exactly.
got
exactly
Microsoft, of course.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, we're in a time, especially in like Seattle area, housing is a big fucking political issue.
Yes.
If I'm running for governor, maybe it's like a political feather in my cap to go after the housing lobby, to go after these monopolies. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to think about the politics of the situation.
Well, I mean, Biden certainly has done that, right?
Right. Right. So I'm just saying, Lord, this was brave.
Right. I mean, going back a little bit on what you're saying is, and this might be a good segue to the other thing I want to talk about is, I don't think and this has been a kind of a back and forth forever, but what we really know what the DOJ finally wants. Right. So, they've kind of indicated that they're going to let this go through without doing anything because probably it's like, okay, well, they're getting there. They're not all the way there where we want them, but they're getting there. So let's not fuck that up. But there's another shoe to drop here. And, do they fight him on this particular issue? Right? Or do they wait where they have the grander vision of like, this is the way we really want it to be, and then sue everybody? Right?
Sue everybody?
Well, I mean, go after everybody because, okay, you got here, but really this is what we want. And we're going to bring the full force of the federal government to get you've reached, M, but we need you to go to Z.
Right.
Right. And that's when instead of like a piecemeal, like, okay, these guys are arguing this one piece of this thing. Do I wait when I gather everything, my whole kind of thing here of what I really want, and then go after everybody, including Northwest MLS?
Yeah.
That's, I guess, in my head where I'm thinking of like, why would they do a little sideshow like this when they really haven't revealed what they want the total industry to do? Let's wait for that to come to fruition and then go after everybody.
Well, I mean, I think it's relatively clear what they want the industry to do. They want total decoupling. Right. And they want concessions only.
But the concessions thing is like, I mean.
But concessions like contained in the offer.
Right.
Right. I mean, I think they made that very clear in their intervention in NOSELEC. Right.
But so, I mean, you can have an MLS that doesn't require compensation, but still can display it. Right.
No, they want total decoupling.
I know. But I mean, is that if they're required to put it in a buyer's agreement now?
Right.
Right.
No. Right. And then in the offer. Right. So if there's no concessions field, no separate compensation offered on your website, right? None of that. Right. And it's just everyone knows, like, when you write the offer, you just write in how much you want to get paid. I think the DOJ would want that.
Right.
Right. That's
but can you have that and like, okay, and then put that information where everybody can look at one central place to see what the offer. Well, I guess that's pre it being on there, right?
Yeah. So since we know that that's what they want, I mean, I don't think it's a sideshow. I don't. And like I said,
I see what you're saying.
Like I said, this isn't me suggesting it. This was like lawyers and enforcers at the webinar talking about it. You want to talk about real impact across the landscape. And this is why I don't know that. I don't know. I'm just putting myself in the Department of Justice's shoes, right? Why would I wait and try and go after like 500 people, right? Like dozens of companies? That's a lot of paperwork. That's a lot of defense. Why don't I just go after Northwest MLS, one company, right? and then criminally charge 15 of them.
Right.
Think about Inman's coverage, right? If it's like the whatever CEO, CFO, COO, and the chair of the board of Northwest MLS taken into custody by the FBI.
You are just amazing.
No, I know it sounds completely ridiculous, and I agree. My point is like they have that power. So imagine that, and the repercussions, like the texting and the phone lines burning up between every MLS CEO we know. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and then they get a phone call.
Are you a large or an extra large for the orange jumpsuit?
Exactly.
What do you think that is?
Dude, we know for a fact they would be like, "Hey, DOJ, what do you like? What rule do you want us to change?" I mean, come on.
Oh man, you just go right to it, don't you? Just the dark of what could happen here.
That's why I'm saying this is so brave.
Yeah,
so brave, and I'm like, I hope you win because I don't want to see nobody in orange jumpsuits. I hope that their argument, like Washington state law allows it, and this is much more transparent. I really hope that carries the day because the alternative is actually really freaking scary, right? So this is, and again, here's how I look at it. I'm sure they have legions of like really great lawyers who looked at everything and said, nope, we're fine. You got nothing to worry about. I really hope so. That's all I'm getting at, right? I really hope so. But if I were in Seattle, I'll be voting for Trump.
Oh God. Well, I mean, it's
Democrat everywhere else, and then President Trump.
Yeah, you could have,
because the only
another felon.
Well, let's put it this way: I think there's clearly a war going on between Trump and the DOJ. So you make of that what you will. We need to have like a politics, and real estate. I
do not
politics.
want to do a politics podcast.
Probably around October is what I'm thinking. Don't you think? Like as we get close to the election, assuming there is one,
Well, yeah. I mean, none of this is going to matter if we don't have a democracy next year. So,
democracy overrated. Embrace the monarchy. Come over.
All right, listen.
All right. See,
there's no orange jumpsuits in the future of Northwest MLS.
Hopefully not. And I'm just like I said, God. I'm just pointing out that Sherman Antitrust Act is criminal statute, right? Yeah. And who the hell knows? Hopefully, none of those things come to pass. I'm so happy to be wrong. I'm making zero predictions. I'm just pointing out like what could happen, right? Which I think is what, lawyers are supposed to do. Like these are things that could happen. But please consult your own attorney, because I'm not your
your attorney.
I'm just a podcaster, having fun with Greg. And the fact is, I think our specialty is talking about some really dark topics.
Well, this is
while having fun.
Alternative futures that could happen on the whole thing. So the other alternative futures, they could win, and this could start a domino effect to the rest of the industry. So
exactly.
Again, bravo, Northwest MLS. I think you're saying exactly the same thing I am.
Just right? Super brave.
Yeah, and
brave.
I think you're adding to the mix what the peril could be there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, wonderful way, I think, of wrapping things up.
And like I said, if anyone from Northwest MLS would like to come and educate me, please, we're wide open.
Justin, Monica, if you're watching, it's all good.
Yeah. Much respect.
Much respect here. Don't listen to him. Or that way, whatever it is.
It's already done. There's no listening. It's done.
It's all good.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. And I guess we will see you next time when we'll talk.
We hope so.
Yeah, exactly. We hope so. We need like some lighthearted topic. Maybe we'll just talk about weight loss techniques.
Oh God, yeah, that's
do a whole show.
That would be very topical. Thank you very much.
All right. Take care, everybody. Ciao.